What's up, guys? Back for another Honkai Star Rail video. So the context of this video is pretty much I just saw a lot of people doom posting a lot of characters, right? Like, oh, Cyrene is not that good, Donhang's not that good. We have Hyacine. Insert this character's not that good. Like, okay, to be fair, Mide's doom posting is kind of valid, I guess, but a lot of people are downplaying units a ton, right? And it got me thinking, what characters actually are valid for like these fallen off doom posted, like on a sort of mocking post, right? So we have the top five, at least my top five loser characters, right? So the criteria for this, at least for me, right, is standard banner characters and 4 stars are not going to be included. It's going to be the 5-star premium characters that have their own banner that pretty much are like, okay, they want you to spend money on these characters, and which characters unfortunately just straight up were not worth it in the end. Now obviously everyone's list is going to be different. I feel like these characters, regardless of where you think they stand, are definitely some of the more like yikes releases, unfortunately, for some of them. But this is my personal top five. I feel like you could just organize them in any way you want, depending on your bias, right? But let's go ahead and jump into it. So at number one, I am going to have Boothill. Now, the reason for this is because Boothill released right before Firefly. So he, like another character on this list, is releasing before a super hype character, which is going to mean people are going to summon on you less. And the character that was released after him is a character that does what he does, which is break damage, and technically does it better. While he's a better single target DPS, Firefly is a better, a bit bigger, a better AoE blast unit, right? Now the thing with that is Boothill still got very good scores, right? However, with the release of Fugue, which is a buff to Super Break, Fugue was very clearly meant to be with Firefly, because Firefly, while enhancing the whole, break effect, it allowed her to hit enemies who weren't weak to fire, which is interesting, right? It's still a buff, right? Because now Fugue is able to hit with like the enhanced basic because they plant fire. It's very clear that fire is the main type for break. If you know, you know, right? Boothill implants physical, right, which is a bit unfortunate. I'm not saying Fugue is a bad partner for Boothill, but it was very clearly a, let's make him fire for Firefly, unfortunately, right? You could argue that Firefly got the least amount of buff technically from Fugue. I could believe, technically speaking, Firefly didn't get that crazy of a buff from Fugue, if I remember the calcs correctly. It's been a minute since I looked at Super Break stuff, right? But regardless, the buff wasn't for Boothill, right? So that's unfortunate, right? It is unfortunate. Funny enough, Rappa kind of shares the same fate, but she was a bit after Firefly, so she gets more of a pass from this. Plus, she still actually got better scores than Firefly. Boothill can't quite say the same. So unfortunately, he is going to be the number one loser, which is funny because Mide shares the same exact fate as him, but Mide is a lot more usable than Boothill was. I believe his competition is more fierce because Castorus is just absurd, but he's gotten some buffs in the form of units like Cyrene and Ceredra, at least, compared to Boothill, who pretty much just got Firefly's scraps or units meant to be paired with other break units and not himself, right? One day we might get a Boothill buff, maybe in like a supernova, a Nova Flare, right? But at the time, it's not looking too hot for the boy. Mide, I mean, he'll probably get buffs in the form of just like generic stuff, right? At least he's still good at the moment. But being released right before Castorus is insane work, especially because he's also an HP scaling DPS, right? Next up on the list is good old Acheron Buffer. Now, he had a very good run, right? It wasn't until Cypher that he truly had like just met his match. However, I'm putting him on this list is because he's only meant to be with Acheron. He is very clearly tailored for that one character. And the fact that he got replaced already, I know it's been like what? Was it a year? Math is no, it was less than a year. It was less than a year. But the fact that he was replaced at all within that year is so tragic. There's no point to summon on this character. I have Acheron, and I don't have him. I have Cypher, so I'm set. I'm good. There is no point summoning on this guy anymore because he was only meant for one character, hence Acheron, and that was it. And the crazy thing is people even advocated to not summon because they're like, okay, he's a way better Pela, but you can just use Pela instead and call it a day. That's what I did, right? Because I was like, do I really want to use my currency to potentially try to get a 5-star that I could just use Pela and, granted, not get nearly the same level of performance, but it still worked. It worked enough to where people were even arguing it, and that's already bad news for you, right? So unfortunately, he is going up here as well. Now for number 4 is going to be another character kind of in a similar situation, but a bit more broad, so obviously she's going to be a bit lower on the list, and that is Topaz. Topaz survived a good amount of patches. I'd say she really only had a running once Ratio dropped. Unfortunately, when she released, she didn't really have too much of a presence just based on the characters that we had at the time, but when Ratio dropped was at the end of 1.0 into 2.0, and then once we got done with Penacony, which was what, 1, 2... 3, 4 patches, that is when March dropped, and March was overall just a better character than her. Same with Mose, who dropped right after, who was a 4-star, March being a free character. So unfortunately, Topaz was replaced by a 4-star and a free character. Granted, she had a bit of time to cook, and granted, she kind of got like somewhat revived when Fei Zhao dropped, but you could argue not really, because people were just using March and Mose anyway. She had a bit of life, but just the fact that she was replaced by not only a 4-star, but then right after a free, she was replaced by March, a free character, and then a 4-star that dropped with Mose right after. So just a double whammy of whoever you liked more. It was very rough. Plus, she also took a more recent L by being added to the shop and then not receiving any buffs, right? Which is a bit unfortunate. I don't know if they're gonna buff the characters they add to that shop or not, but the fact that she didn't when she kind of clearly needed it is just another L to slap her on this list. Then at number 5, this is going to probably have the most bias on the list. That is Black Swan, right? Now, when Black Swan released, she was extremely good. You could run her with funny enough Ratio because she applied debuffs, which Ratio wanted. Her and Kafka did cook for a little bit, but not too much. She wasn't enough to put Black Swan wasn't enough to put Dot on like the number 1 leaderboard. They're cooking again like High Ceilings did, and Dot kind of like fell off because of that, right? Now with the resurgence of Dot with High Ceilings, Black Swan was back, but at this point you would just run Kafka, High Ceilings, and then a support and Donhang. At this point you don't really run Black Swan. You can still get the job done with it, but the other 2 characters are way more essential to the team, and at that point it's like, okay, you have your sustain and Donhang, right? Or whoever you use. Most of the time you're using Donhang because he's free and he's really good on the team. You have Kafka, who you need, who also got buffed. You have High Ceilings, who you need because she's the new like meta for Dot, and then you have 1 slot left. Most of the time you would think, okay, you use the other Dot character, but you would just be like, okay, let's just run a support, right? Like you want a support character buffing your damage, helping out. Maybe it's like Robin for the attack buff and the action advance and whatnot. Maybe it's someone like Cypher, right? Maybe it's someone like whoever you're using, right? And Black Swan just is kind of like the 3rd Dot unit who just like is fighting for a place. And unfortunately, like I feel like Black Swan didn't get a true chance to shine, except for when she came out, which was kind of short-lived. At least it felt like it to me, especially as a Dot main. Using her, it was just very unfortunate timing. She didn't really have her spotlight for her, right? So she's going to be on 5, right? Obviously there's probably some bigger offenders, but as a Dot main it hurt the most because I really like Black Swan. She's cool, but hey, maybe in the future, right? And then now you might be thinking, who is the honorable mention, right? Like I said, I'm only using premium characters, and most of the characters were pretty decent when they came out and then got somewhat of a revive with a future unit. Someone like Argenti, who's really good in pure fiction, and then found some researchers with Herda. Same thing with Jade. Yunli was pretty good when she came out. Fei Zhao was really good when she came out. Lingsha is still very good. Like a lot of these characters just were pretty good when they came out and just like aged out naturally, right? But there's one character who technically is still decent, but I'm going to count them as a loser, and that is Saber, right? Now, the reason for this is Saber, when she dropped, she released with Archer. Archer was the free unit. Archer is the better unit than Saber. He's ranked higher on everything except for pure fiction, and Saber, while really good, is not as good as the other DPS that releases. While this is another slap in the face, is that she is a character who is out for multiple patches. She's a collab character, and she pretty much not fell off, but there's better alternatives, right? There's just straight up better DPS alternatives. So to be a DPS who has already kind of, had better characters come out than her is pretty damn rough. Plus, a collab character, you'd expect them to probably have a bit more shelf life than other characters just to kind of sell them. Also, the fact that she's multiple patches, you would think they would account for that and be like, okay, let's make this character better than normal. So people are still enticed to summon on this character a few patches out, right? I mean, I got her for the collab, but if I was a new player who didn't care about Fate, I would not recommend something on Saber, which is crazy because she's not even that old, right? Just unfortunate, right? Not saying she's a bad unit. She can get clears, but there's just better options than her, and she's overshadowed by her other collab counterpart. It's just L's, L's, and L's, right? Which is the whole point of this list, right? Now, you could probably put other characters on this list, right? Maybe like I'd say it's hard to argue, honestly. I feel like a lot of these characters are still just very, very good. Maybe you could have like Yunli, I guess, because she didn't really get any help, but she was really good. I don't know. A lot of these characters pretty much had some use when they dropped and then got some use later on, but these ones are at least my representatives for biggest loser and Star L. Let me know what you guys think of the list, and let me know in the comments what is your biggest Star L loser. And of course, I will catch y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.